Current assessments indicate that Africa is off track with most sustainable development goals. As we approach,
Africa must unite. But Africa is not going to unite because of the number of seminars and symposia that we hold. No, not at all. We have held enough symposia, we have had enough workshops about uniting Africa. But what I begin to see is that the masses of Africa are beginning to rise and making demands of their leaders. Several years ago, I remember one of the greatest speeches ever delivered by Martin Luther King Jr. when he was talking about the civil rights movement, and the African Americans were beginning to get tired in the same way that we too sometimes we are beginning to get tired. And that famous speech in which Martin Luther Jr. asked, how long? I'm sure many Africans are asking, for how long shall we wait for this African unity? And his response, not long. And I too believe that we are going to unite as a continent, but we must be able to identify the reasons why we want our unity. Have you ever asked why this continent has always been attractive to other civilizations? What is it that so many years ago, before the white man came into this continent, what is it that the Arab saw? Because the Arab was here. We never talk about it. The very first people to go into the eastern coast of Africa were Arabs. And they enslaved Africans. We never talk about it loudly for purposes of political correctness. What is it that they saw? What is it that the Europeans saw in 1884 that Africa was carved out? What did the Germans want in Namibia? What did they want in Dahomey? What did they want in Rwanda, Urundi? The Germans who are in Germany, why did they want?
The upcoming SDG summit in September, the African Union and the United Nations will be working closely together to speed up the pace of results. While industrialized nations become more preoccupied, and why not, with the domestic and regional matters, Africa is also starting to come together to assert our interests with one voice. One of the most significant recent achievements is expanding the horizon of opportunities, and Africa has put together African Continental Free Trade Area, which will be formally launched next month at the African Union Summit in Niger. There is more work ahead to make sure that this agreement results in increased prosperity for all our people, but are eager to get started. The task of addressing inequality has always been the primary responsibility of each individual country. But in the current global context, it is more imperative than ever that developing countries take a more effective lead of their general development agenda, as well as raising the level of prosperity. It is not something that can be done by external actors alone. The starting point is an inclusive politics that puts citizens at the center. Community ownership of development empowers citizens to hold government accountable. This builds public trust, without which it is difficult for governments to define the challenges that impede progress and implement appropriate solutions.